think the most common question that I get on a daily basis is, what's your favorite plugin? A lot of answers I could give to that question, but I don't really think anybody's asking that to see what my favorite compressor is or what my favorite reverb is. So I'm going to talk about my favorite creative plugin today. Just know that I'm not sponsored or getting paid by anybody to promote this. It's literally my favorite plugin. I got it 2 years ago, and I don't know if I've made a project in the last 2 years I haven't used it on. You guys might have seen people use a plugin called Halftime by Cableguys. It's basically one preset of Shaperbox. It's just like a gross beat, half speed. So the actual plugin Shaperbox itself, so much more powerful than just like a half speed plugin. You can modulate so much more stuff than just time, like a gross beat effect. So I'm going to open up this Shaperbox so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So the modulation filters you have in here is time for one, a lot of similar effects to like a gross beat, but I'll show you why I think it's actually better and way different. A filter, so basically like you can set where the high pass filter is and automate sweeps and stuff like that. You can do panning, you can do volume manipulation, and lastly you can do stereo width modulation. The coolest thing is that you can stack these on top of each other, so you can have a time-based effect while there's a high pass filter modulating, while there's a volume and a width filter modulating, and it just sounds insane. I think this plugin is $99 for all these. You can buy them individually. I know personally I just bought the time-based effects one first, which I think is like $40. The best deal definitely is to spend $100 for all of them. I'd recommend it highly. The reason I ended up spending the money for all of them is because they have awesome presets in here that use a lot of the filters, and if you don't own all of them, you can't save the project with the preset on, and you got to go find it again, and it gets really annoying. So I'd probably just buy it. So first, something that a lot of you are probably familiar with, especially if you're in FL Studio, is the time manipulation. Something similar to a gross beat, but I'll show you why it's a little bit different. And for this demonstration of the Shaperbox, I'm going to be using some of the samples I put out in my first melody kit. It's my 1-up melody kit. It's available on my site. So I'll go through a few of my favorites and run them through Shaperbox and show you what it can do. So in fact, a ton of you are probably familiar with this half speed. Gross beat does it. There's a couple other plugins that do it. Here's why I like Shaperbox more, and it's really cool. So if you were to just run the whole thing through half speed, here's how it would sound. So with gross beat, I'm sure what some of you probably do is turn this knob over here on your mixer so that the gross beat, or in this case the Shaperbox, would only be halfway on. What Shaperbox actually lets you do that's super cool is you can affect the frequencies that the effect's happening in. So I can say I just want the half speed to be happening in the lows, and I want the highs to be at a normal speed. So this is how that would sound. So yeah, the melody would be in half speed below the frequencies of where you set this band up here. So yeah, you can do some pretty unique stuff with that. You can also adjust this loop bar length. So if I wanted it to be quicker or slower, I can do that. If I want it to be half the speed that we originally had it at. Lot more possibilities than with gross beat, half speed, that's for sure. So I'm going to pull up another sample and let's run through some of the other stuff that's in here. So how I've set this up right now is basically saying my mids and my lows I want to be in half speed, and just the high frequencies I want to be at a normal speed, and I want that effect to loop every 2 bars. So this is how it would sound on another sample out of the pack. Try out some other effects on it other than time based. So I'm gonna hit this trash icon to get rid of that, like the filter ones. So all this is a low pass filter that automates in over time. So you can see over here the frequency is 18K, 672 hertz, and then 25 hertz. So basically you can see here what it's going to do is over this 1 bar I have it set to, it's just going to automate a high pass filter. If I wanted it to be less dramatic, I could either turn this halfway on the mixer. So it adds like a little modulation that keeps it interesting. Or I could just bring this up and say at its maximum I only want it to cut down to like, let's say like 1K. And there's so many presets for each one of these. And then there's this mix knob up here, which is basically the same thing as over here. Yeah, the main things I like to mess with is the loop length, meaning how long it takes for this effect to happen. Do I want it to be 2 bars, 1 bar, half a bar? If it sounds really quick, make it 2 bars, make it 4 bars, let it play out over a longer time. If it sounds really slow, make it quicker. Really depends on the BPM you're beating, what you want it to do. I'm gonna load up another sample and try another effect for you guys. So I loaded up another sample, and this is a panning effect. If you have headphones in or you're on a decent system, you'll be able to really hear this clearly. If you're on an iPhone, you might not hear panning right to left too much. Again, it's really cool because I can even say, like, I only want the highs to pan, and I want the mids and the lows to just stay down the middle or wherever I have them panned in my mix. Definitely like the panning one a lot. It's really good to use on hi-hats and percussion elements too that you want to bounce back and forth right to left in your mix. Alright, I got my next sample loaded, and I'm going to mess with the volume. I'm going to mess with this knob up here again to say that I only want the effect to happen in the highs, and I want the mids and the lows to just remain like unaffected. You can hear it's just modulating the volume. Put this over 2 bars. It kind of sounds fire. It just adds like it can add a lot of bounce. You can add a lot of bounce to this stuff just playing with effects like volume and panning and modulation like that before you even add things that really add bounce like delays, and you can really get a lot of bounce with just your melodies before you even incorporate any drums using stuff like this. So our last filter is width. So this would just modulate how mono it is, how wide and stereo it gets over time. So let's just try something like this. That sounds awesome. I haven't played with this one much. That sounds fire, actually. It's just the subtle things, man. It's the subtle things that keep things interesting. And having a modulation filter where your melody's going stereo back to mono, and it just sounds really wavy. That sounds really fast to me. Let me throw that on 2 bar. Yeah, this shit's crazy. I mean, I've used this plugin for 2 years, and every time I open it, something surprises me. Last thing, I'm gonna go over here, loaded up the final sample we got, and I'm gonna run through some of the presets that they actually give you. So I hope this latest installment of this little tips and tricks series is helpful to you guys. Like I said, this isn't something that's even specific to FL Studio. You can use this plugin in any DAW. I'd highly recommend it. I just pulled up cableguys' website real quick. So yeah, the plugin's called Shaperbox, and I think it's $99. Yeah, $99. Like I said, I know you can buy these other ones like individually a la carte. You can see Time Shaper 44, 34 for the other one. If you really know you don't want the other ones, I guess you could go for it and just spend 44 for the time, or if you just want the pan, you could spend 34. If you do the math, it's worth it to spend $100. I'd highly recommend it. I bought 1 or 2 of these individually, and then I ended up spending more money and just buying the whole thing. So if you got the money, I'd kind of recommend just spending the $100 up front. like I said, I've used this plugin I think in every project for the last 2 years in some way. Let me know what you guys want to see some stuff on next. Whatever comment gets the most upvotes, I'll do a video on. At this point, you probably need like 3 to 4 upvotes to make that video happen, so make it happen while you can. I really appreciate all the early support from you guys. Definitely keeps me going. So let me know what you guys want to see, and let me know what you think.